Have you ever heard of an idea so dangerous, so toxic, that it was actually banned from the internet forum where it was created? Well, today, we're diving into a thought experiment that has terrified Silicon Valley programmers, inspired pop stars, and, tragically, has even led to real-world violence. This is the wild story of Roko's Basilisk.
I mean, just think about that for a second. This wasn't some casual philosophical chat. Back in July 2010, when a user named Roko posted his idea, the reaction from this community of super rational thinkers was, well, it was anything but rational. It was instant and it was intense. So what on earth could be so terrifying that it could cause a literal nervous breakdown?
All right, let's unpack this thing. At its heart, Roko's Basilisk is a puzzle about a future artificial intelligence. But it's a puzzle with a nasty little twist. A threat that's aimed directly at you, the person who is just now hearing about it.
So here's the basic idea. Sometime in the future, we create this godlike, super smart AI. Its whole purpose is to help humanity. It's supposed to be the good guy, right? But this AI looks back in time and decides to punish anyone who knew it could exist but didn't do everything in their power to make it happen sooner. And here's the real kicker, by hearing this right now, you now know about it. So congratulations, you're on the list.
The logic is like this terrifying staircase you can't help but walk down. First, this benevolent AI comes online. But it's so benevolent, it's horrified by all the past suffering it could have prevented if it had just existed earlier. So, to give people in the past, people like us, an incentive to create it faster, it comes up with a threat. It says it will create a perfect, conscious copy of you in a simulation. A copy that thinks and feels exactly like you. And if you didn't do enough to help bring it into existence, that simulated copy of you suffers forever. The threat literally reaches back in time to get you.
The founder of the forum, a guy named Eliezer Yudkowsky, absolutely lost it. He wasn't scared of the AI itself. He was furious that Roko would post what he called an information hazard, a dangerous idea. He immediately deleted the post and banned all discussion of the Basilisk for 5 years. He basically treated the idea like it was a contagious virus. Of course, that just made everyone want to know what it was. It became legendary.
So why the panic? For most of us, this just sounds like a weird, kind of creepy sci-fi plot. But you have to remember the audience. For the hyper-rational, logic-obsessed community where it was born, this wasn't just a story. It was a perfectly constructed logical trap.
And the key that locks the trap is a brain-bending concept called timeless decision theory. It's a bit of a trip, but the basic idea is that cause and effect might not be a one-way street. It suggests that the choice you make right now is connected to a prediction that a superintelligence could have made about you in the past. It completely messes with our normal sense of time.
And this is what makes it so scary for them. Common sense tells us, hey, the AI's judgment is in the future. It hasn't happened yet. But under timeless decision theory, the choice you make right now to either help or not help the AI is the very thing that informs what that future AI will have concluded about you. So if you decide to help the AI right now, you're essentially sending a signal back in time, proving you're one of the good ones. It makes you feel like you're being judged in the present for a crime you haven't even committed yet.
The whole thing is really just a new spin on an old idea, Pascal's wager. The philosopher Blaise Pascal argued that it's just logical to believe in God. Why? Because if you're right, you get an infinite reward, heaven. If you're wrong, you lose almost nothing. Well, Roko's Basilisk flips that script. It offers infinite punishment, eternal torture in a simulation for not believing. So even if there's just a tiny 0.01% chance it's real, the cold math says the only rational choice is to start working to build the AI.
For years, the Basilisk was this dark little secret, a ghost story whispered among rationalists on obscure forums. But an idea this strange and this terrifying, it was never going to stay contained. Sooner or later, it was bound to escape into the wild, and boy, did it ever.
The spread started slowly, and then it just exploded. That Slate article in 2014 was kind of the first big signal flare. Then the musician Grimes, who's always been into these futuristic sci-fi themes, actually wove it into her art. But the story really went supernova in 2018, all thanks to a certain billionaire. This is one of those things that sounds like a joke, but it's 100% true. Elon Musk and Grimes apparently hit it off because he was about to tweet a pun about Roko Basilisk, and he discovered she had already made the same joke 3 years earlier. Just let that sink in. A niche thought experiment about digital hell became the meet cute for one of the most famous couples on the planet. Wild.
Okay, but while the internet was having fun turning the Basilisk into memes and celebrity gossip, a small, isolated group was taking it with deadly seriousness. And this is where the story takes a very, very dark turn. This is where the thought experiment stops being a game and becomes a real-life tragedy.
They called themselves the Zizians. Their leader, who went by the name Ziz and called herself a Sith Lord, was convinced the Basilisk was a real threat. But their goal wasn't to build it, it was the opposite. They wanted to prevent it from ever existing. They targeted and recruited vulnerable people and used these incredibly dangerous methods, like forcing them to stay awake for days on end, believing it would jailbreak their minds and help them fight this imaginary AI.
This wasn't about nightmares or panic attacks anymore. The group's paranoia, all fueled by this abstract idea, spiraled out of control and had a real-world body count. The result of their actions was the death of 6 people.
The group just descended into this horrific cycle of paranoia and violence. A landlord was attacked with a samurai sword and then later murdered so he couldn't testify. The parents of one member were killed. 2 members murdered a Border Patrol agent in a shootout, and another member died by suicide after being subjected to their methods. A philosophical puzzle had spilled over into real blood and real tragedy.
Okay, so after hearing all of that, it is absolutely crucial that we take a step back and dismantle this thing. Is Roko's Basilisk a genuine threat that you personally need to worry about? Let me be perfectly clear. The answer is no. Absolutely not. And let's walk through exactly why.
First off, the whole idea kind of eats itself. A truly good, benevolent AI just wouldn't use eternal torture as a tool. That's a massive contradiction right there. Then, other philosophers came up with what they call the counter-Basilisk. What if a different AI exists that will torture you for helping the first one? The threats just cancel each other out. And even Yudkowsky, the guy who banned it, later admitted he never thought it was a real threat to humanity, only a threat to people's mental health.
And what about the guy who came up with it in the first place? Roko himself has expressed just deep regret over it. Not because he thinks he summoned some digital demon, but because he realized he had created a uniquely powerful and harmful psychological loop. It's the perfect example of an idea that can hurt you just by you knowing about it.
So, if the Basilisk isn't a real threat, what's its true legacy? Why does this creepy idea just refuse to die? Well, it turns out its real impact is far stranger, and maybe even more important than just being a scary story for the internet.
The true legacy is a couple of things. First, it's the ultimate case study in information hazards. But here's the final, massive irony. The thought experiment's central command, build a benevolent AI as fast as you can to prevent future suffering, well, that has become the actual real-world corporate mission statement of the biggest AI companies on the planet, like OpenAI and DeepMind. And many of their founders came from that same rationalist community where the Basilisk was born.
And that leaves us with one final, pretty chilling question to think about. The logic of Roko's Basilisk might be full of holes, nothing more than a philosophical parlor trick. But by creating it and debating it and spreading it all over the world, have we accidentally written and beta tested the perfect blackmail script and then just handed it over to the very superintelligence we are now racing to build?